of a gas leak when that explosion happened. So far, officials did give us an update a short while ago. 4 people have been transported to the hospital, but fire officials say there's an unknown number of fatalities. So we are still working to find out how many people have been injured or have people died from this, but we know at least 4 people have been taken to the hospital. Search and rescue operations are still underway. But let's listen into what city officials had to say.
The fire is contained, but our members are still working on the scene to do primary searches. We put a drone in the air to canvass the area to see if we have any, if we see any victims or anything around.
I want to encourage our entire city, this entire state, the entire nation to come together and pray for all the people, all the families who are affected by this tragedy we are experiencing here today in our city. We ask everyone to please pray for our Dallas Fire Rescue personnel who are still fighting this fire.
Fox 4's Lori Brown is live at the scene. She's been there for over an hour now. Lori, what can you tell us? What are you seeing? What do you know so far?
And there are a whole lot of unknowns. The city gave a news conference that you just talked about with the city manager, the mayor, the fire department, the police chief, and yet none of those officials would take any questions, namely what was the cause, was this a gas leak, and what was the thing that prompted the gas leak? Is this a case of old pipes, or was there construction work going on? All of that is unclear at this moment. When we arrived, there was a 10-year-old girl that was barefoot walking out with police at her side, and you could tell that she was distraught and that the police were trying to figure out where her family members were. And a little while later, we saw that her aunt and her grandma pulled up from another location, and they had a very emotional reunification, and you could tell that they weren't sure if all of their family members in that apartment complex are okay. And that's another question that the city says they don't know yet. They don't know if there are people that are still trapped inside or if everyone has made it out, other than the 4 people that have been taken to the hospital. So the aunt told us later that the girl was there with her mom and her 1-year-old brother, and that she heard the impact. She was able to make it out, but she was still looking for where her mom and little brother were located. And here's what she told us.
Hysterical because nobody knows where they're at. And my mom literally just called me, and I just came over here. She couldn't really tell me a lot.
How thankful are you to see your niece?
Oh, I'm very thankful. I'm thankful. She's a little traumatized right now, but she just hopes that her mom and her brother are okay.
So we are hoping that we will hear back from that family soon and find out that this was a case of the mom and little brother running out without cell phones and without being able to make contact with one another, and hopefully they have been able to reunify, but I've not gotten that word yet when I just reached out to Nora Carmona a little bit ago. And the other thing that is interesting about all of this is that this is happening a day after the city of Dallas agreed to a rate increase with Atmos. It's about a $9 per month rate increase for the average family. City Councilwoman Karen Mendelson reached out saying that this is an example of why that rate increase is needed, so that Atmos has the funds to make sure all of their pipes are in good condition. But again, we're not sure if the conditions of the pipe led to this situation or if there was something else. When I tried to ask the city manager what was the situation that led up to this, she would not take any questions there. Eden.
Lori, another thing too to note is that this is near W.H. Adamson High School, and I believe authorities were telling us that their last day of school was actually yesterday. So just another layer here to keep in mind as kids are out of school. Teachers, though, were still in that building there. Again, this is near the scene of the explosion, and there were staff members on site. Dallas ISD made a statement saying that everybody on site is safe and accounted for. Fox 4's David Santendry is at the school where authorities have set up a family assistance center. David, what are you seeing right now?
Hey, Eden. Well, yeah, Adamson High School is basically a stone's throw away from this apartment complex, and this is the reunification center, so we've seen groups of people coming in and out throughout the past hour or so. And after a press conference was held just a little while ago with city officials, we saw those city officials walk over this way, and in a group, they all walked in through these front doors. We're talking about the mayor, the police chief, a group of these city officials. We don't know exactly what they're doing inside, if they're speaking with specific people who were impacted in that apartment complex, if they're talking with first responders. We don't know if this is just going to act as a base for them as they work to get more information, but we've seen them in there for about the past half hour or so. No signs of them coming out, at least through these front doors, in the last little while. We'll keep monitoring the situation. We are being kept a ways away just because of this yellow tape for obvious reasons. We don't want to get in the way of people who are trying to be reunited with loved ones who have gone through something possibly quite traumatic. So this, again, just right across the way from this apartment complex. And we have seen people coming out here who appear like they might be affected, maybe living in that apartment complex or a nearby apartment complex, people who are maybe in their pajamas or workout clothes, who you could tell weren't expecting something like this to be happening in their neighborhood today. There was one young gentleman, a 17-year-old man, who we saw standing on the sidewalk outside of Adamson High School. And he was wearing pants but no shirt. He just had a towel wrapped around his shoulders, and we went up and started talking to him, asked for his story. He says that he was inside an apartment across the street from where the explosion took place. It was just him and his 11-year-old brother. He was playing a video game when he just describes what felt like an earthquake coming from across the street. He said smoke started to make its way all the way into his apartment unit from across the way. His parents weren't home, but he just took quick action, got his 11-year-old brother, and they just came over here for a safe space to gather until he could make contact with his mom, until they could be safe. Again, we spoke to him just about 20-30 minutes ago. Want to let you hear what he had to say.
Man, I just seen flames, and I just heard a big loud bang. It was really a lot to take in, I can't lie. It was like an earthquake, really. That's what it felt like. Everything just shooken up. It shook it up bad to where the point it was a whole bunch of like dust, I guess, inside the house. Like it felt like our apartments were about to go down too. I can't even lie.
So we just saw a vehicle from the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office arriving on scene. There are obviously plenty of Dallas police and Dallas ISD police vehicles out here, Dallas Fire. It's just a very large law enforcement first responder presence. You know, when I was talking to that 17-year-old just a little bit ago, I was trying to get a sense for what that apartment complex that exploded is like. I was asking him, hey, do you know people who live over there, or do a lot of people live over there? Because obviously it's not uncommon to see some apartment complexes where there may be half or a quarter full, maybe some vacant units throughout the property. But what he was telling me is that unfortunately he does know that a lot of people are living over there. It's an active apartment complex from his point of view. So we're still working to find out how many people were affected, and just hoping for the best right now while we're working for more info at this reunification center.
David, Sean here with you, my friend, and you have given us the confirmation of what we were all kind of hoping against. Earlier, the assistant fire chief said there were unconfirmed possibilities of fatalities. Unknown possibilities of fatalities was the quote. You now have told us you've seen a vehicle from the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office that lets us know that at least one person, maybe others, lost their lives in this Thursday tragedy. You've talked to that young man from across the street, and as he described it, that tells you the force of this explosion. Talk about that a little bit more, David.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. So in talking to him, it was such a strong force that he was wondering, you know, obviously about the people across the street, but for his own safety, he was like, what if my apartment complex is next? What if there's a secondary explosion coming from in that same area? He was just trying to get to safety as quick as possible, him and his 11-year-old brother. So I think we talked earlier on our streaming newscast, you know, that fight or flight response for him, it was just immediately flight. He was trying to get out of harm's way as quick as possible and make it over here to Adamson High School.
Well, certainly understand that. All right, thank you. Good reporting, David Santindri. Eden, a couple of things I want to talk about. First of all, I've heard from Parkland again. I spoke with Parkland Hospital a few minutes ago. They said we have no patients. They contacted me since we've been sitting here. They do have one patient. They tell me that person's in good condition. Also, Methodist has responded to me. They have one patient at Methodist Hospital. So we, at this moment, would believe 2 others have gone to Baylor Medical Center. We haven't heard from Baylor just yet. And the other thing is, I appreciate the Councilwoman, Kara Mendelson, talking about the rate hike that's needed to make sure the pipes are in good condition. Our sources are telling us that a contractor ruptured that gas line. So it's unconfirmed, but we saw the contractor vehicle at the heart of the fire, at the epicenter of this fire. And those are things that we need to just wait and see before we begin to talk about what's necessary. The other thing that's important for me to mention, that I believe this unit, 20 units in this apartment complex, 2-story, older, built back in the 60s.
Okay, and we, I believe officials were telling us originally it was a 3-alarm fire, 4-alarm fire, then it became a 5-alarm fire.
5-alarm fire.
We saw more than 100 firefighters on scene. I mean, look at this. The building was just engulfed in flames. People could see the smoke billowing all the way from downtown Dallas. And again, 4 people sent to the hospital. You've confirmed where the at least 2 of those people are, right? 2?
Yes,
where they are.
One at Parkland and one at Methodist. It is very rare to have a 5-alarm fire in the city of Dallas. When that has happened, it's been big warehouses, big apartment complex fires, pallet fires and tire fires and things of that nature. This was horrific, and we can only hope and pray.
Right, but of course, seeing the medical examiner there on scene, at least the vehicle belonging to the medical examiner's office, is concerning, right?
Very much so.
That indicates perhaps
very much so.
There may be one death there, at least one death. So hopefully authorities will be able to give us more details regarding that. This is not far, as we mentioned, from W.H. Adamson High School. It is amazing that firefighters were able to keep the fire contained to just that structure. I mean, even just looking to the left side of the monitor, there was a new apartment building.
Yes, so what's going up next to it is a building called the Clyde, and as you can see, it's under construction. The winds at 12:47 today, it would be nice to hear Dan Henry explain that to us. They had to have been very weak, and maybe Kylie Capps will be able to tell us that. Maybe the winds were very moderate to low to no winds at that time, because with the force, the volume of the fire we saw, it would have spread quickly, we would think. And of course, firefighters were responding already to calls of a possible gas leak in the area, so they were there quickly.
And there are trees nearby, so again, obviously, if the winds are stronger, that can certainly impact the fire. Kylie, we want to send it over to you in terms of the weather. What was it like? Because that obviously impacts how quickly firefighters are able to respond to something like this.
I mean, not only